At 50 years old, I was delivering pizza in a beat-up Honda Civic when Walter Drummond opened his door and dropped to his knees. The December rain was coming down hard that night, soaking through my Luigi's Pizza jacket, and I just wanted to collect my $12 tip and move on to the next delivery. But this old man was staring at my face like he'd seen a ghost, his hands trembling as he reached toward me. "Dear God," he whispered, his voice breaking. "You're Thomas Grant's son, aren't you?" I stepped back, confused and a little concerned. "Sir, are you okay? Should I call someone?" "Thomas Grant was your father. I know those eyes, that jawline. You look exactly like him when he was young." His eyes filled with tears. "I've been searching for you for 30 years, Raymond." "How do you know my name?" My heart was racing now. Nobody talked about my father. He'd died when I was 2, and my mother had taken most of his memories to her grave 3 years ago. Because I was his business partner. We started a company together in 1982. Your father owned 50%. Walter struggled to his feet, grabbing my arm with surprising strength for a 78-year-old. "Please, you need to come inside. What I'm about to show you will change everything." I should have left. I had 3 more deliveries getting cold in my car. But something in his voice, the desperation mixed with joy, made me follow him into his house. The living room walls were covered with framed photographs and documents. He pulled one down with shaking hands, showing 2 young men in hard hats standing at a construction site. "That's your father and me, the day we signed the papers for Drummond Grant Developments." My throat went dry. My father looked exactly like me, or I looked exactly like him. Same dark hair, same strong jaw, same slight crook in the nose. He never mentioned any business to my mother. Because we thought we'd failed, the city denied our development permits. Your father died 2 months later thinking he'd lost everything. But 6 months after his death, they reversed the decision. That worthless swampland we bought? It became the Riverside Technology Corridor. Walter shuffled to his desk and pulled out a folder thick with documents. "I've been collecting your father's share of the profits for 30 years, searching for you and your mother. She disappeared after his death, and I couldn't find her. But the money kept growing, the rent checks kept coming." He opened the folder to a bank statement. The number at the bottom made my vision blur. $823 million. "That's not possible," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Google built their East Coast hub on Lot 15. Microsoft is on Lot 23. 3 major hospitals, 47 office buildings, 2 shopping centers, all paying rent to Drummond Grant Developments. Half of it belongs to you. My legs gave out. I collapsed right there on Walter Drummond's Persian rug, the pizza bag spilling across the floor. 6 months ago, I'd been a successful logistics manager at Harlow Industries. I had a house, a career, respect. Then my ex-wife Felicia married my billionaire boss, Vincent Harlow, and they destroyed my life with false theft accusations. They blacklisted me from the industry, took my home, my savings, everything. "Enjoy being nobody," Felicia had texted me the day I started delivering pizzas. Now I was staring at a piece of paper that said I was worth more than the man who destroyed me. "There's something else," Walter said, helping me to a chair. "Your ex-wife's new husband, Vincent Harlow? His corporate headquarters sits on our land, Lot 47. He's been our tenant for 15 years. The room spun. Vincent Harlow rents from us? His entire empire operates from that location, and there's a clause I insisted on when we wrote the original contracts. Any tenant who violates ethical business practices can have their lease terminated with 30 days' notice." I thought about my daughter Bethany, struggling to finish nursing school because I couldn't help with tuition anymore. About my son Christopher offering to loan me money he didn't have. About the humiliation of delivering pizzas to my former colleagues, seeing the pity in their eyes. "Mr. Drummond," I said, standing up slowly, "I think it's time Vincent Harlow met his new landlord." Walter smiled. and for the first time in 6 months I felt something I'd forgotten existed. Hope. Not just for money or revenge, but for justice. The man who'd crushed me because he could was about to learn that karma sometimes comes with a 30-day eviction notice. 6 months ago, I had it all figured out. 23 years at Harlow Industries had taken me from warehouse coordinator to senior logistics manager, and I was proud of every rung I'd climbed on that ladder. My corner office overlooked the Philadelphia skyline, and my team of 42 people respected me enough to name me Manager of the Year 3 times running. The divorce from Felicia had been final for 8 years, and honestly, I was doing better without her. My kids had flourished once the constant fighting stopped. Bethany was in her final year at Temple University's nursing program, pulling straight A's and volunteering at Children's Hospital on weekends. Christopher had just made partner at McKenna & Associates, the youngest in the firm's history at 31. We had Sunday dinners together twice a month at my house in Bryn Mawr, nothing fancy, but it was mine. "Dad, you need to start dating again," Bethany would say, passing the mashed potatoes. "You're only 50, that's young these days. I'm focused on my work, sweetheart. Besides, after your mother, I think I've had enough excitement for one lifetime." Christopher would laugh. "Mom was definitely exciting. Remember when she tried to convince us to invest in that pyramid scheme?" We could joke about it now, about Felicia's constant need for more money, more status, more everything. She'd left me for a real estate developer who went bankrupt within 2 years. Last I'd heard, she was working as a receptionist at a dental office. Then came the company gala in June. Harlow Industries always went overboard for the annual celebration, renting out the Four Seasons ballroom, bringing in celebrity chefs, making everyone feel like royalty for one night. I was standing with my team, actually enjoying myself, when Vincent Harlow himself approached with a woman on his arm. "Ray," Vincent boomed in that voice that commanded boardrooms, "I want you to meet my fiancé properly." The woman turned, and my blood turned to ice. Felicia stood there in a designer gown that probably cost more than I made in a month, diamonds dripping from her ears, that familiar predatory smile spreading across her face. "Hello, Ray," she said sweetly. "It's been too long." "Felicia's been telling me all about your history together," Vincent said, his hand possessively on her waist. "Small world, isn't it? Your ex-wife becoming part of the Harlow family." My team stood frozen around me, everybody suddenly very interested in their champagne glasses. I forced a smile. "Congratulations to you both." "We should have dinner sometime," Felicia said. "All of us, like adults. I'd love to hear how the kids are doing." The way she said kids, like she hadn't missed 8 years of birthdays and graduations, made my jaw clench. But I kept my composure. "They're doing great. Excuse me. I see someone I need to speak with." I walked away, but I could feel her eyes on me the rest of the night. My assistant Janet found me on the balcony later. "You okay, boss? That looked rough in there." "It's fine, Janet, ancient history." "If you say so, but be careful. That woman looked at you like a cat who just spotted a mouse." Janet didn't know how right she was. Over the next weeks, Felicia started appearing everywhere at work. She'd drop by to have lunch with Vincent, always stopping by my department. She'd attend meetings she had no business being in, sitting next to Vincent, whispering in his ear while looking at me. "Dad, something's wrong," Christopher said during one of our dinners. "You look exhausted." "Just work stuff. Vincent's fiancée is Felicia." Bethany dropped her fork. "Mom? Mom is marrying your boss? It's fine, I just have to stay professional." "Dad, you need to document everything," Christopher said in his lawyer voice. "This feels like trouble." My mother, Dorothy, would have seen it coming. She'd always been suspicious of people with too much charm and too little conscience. "Raymond, you're too trusting, just like your father was," she used to say. Thomas saw the good in everyone, even when there wasn't any good to find. Mom had raised me alone after Dad died in that car accident when I was 2. She worked double shifts at Philadelphia General for 30 years, putting me through school, never complaining. She'd died 3 years ago, peacefully in her sleep, leaving me a box of my father's things and a warning. The world isn't always fair, Raymond, but the truth has a way of finding daylight. Looking back now, I should have listened to Christopher. I should have seen the trap Felicia and Vincent were setting, but I believed in the system, in hard work, in the idea that doing your job well was enough protection. I was wrong. The destruction of my life happened in exactly 72 hours, and it started with a phone call at 7:30 on a Monday morning. "Raymond, we need you in human resources immediately," the voice said. It was Carol Patterson, the HR director, and her tone made my coffee taste like ash. The walk to HR felt like a funeral march. Carol sat behind her desk with 2 security guards flanking the door. A stack of papers lay between us like an accusation. "There's been a serious allegation of theft," she said, sliding the documents toward me. $2 million of inventory is missing from Warehouse 7. The digital access logs show your override codes were used every single time. That's impossible. I haven't been in Warehouse 7 in 3 months. The records say otherwise. Every transaction has your digital signature. 47 separate diversions over the past 90 days. My hands shook as I reviewed the papers. There was my access code, my digital signature, even my supposed login times, all at hours when I was home asleep. "This is fabricated. Check the security cameras, they'll show I wasn't there." Carol's expression didn't change. The cameras malfunctioned during all relevant time periods. The backup system also failed. Mr. Harlow wants this handled quietly. Resign now, sign this non-disclosure agreement, and there won't be criminal charges. Criminal charges for something I didn't do? I want my lawyer. That's your choice, but Mr. Harlow was hoping to avoid embarrassing your family. Your son Christopher just made partner, didn't he? Be a shame if McKenna and Associates learned their newest partner's father was a thief. The threat was clear. I stood up. I'm not resigning for something I didn't do. Then you're suspended, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. The walk of shame through the office I'd helped build was the longest of my life. 42 faces of my team watching as security marched me out like a criminal. Janet was crying at her desk. Dennis from accounting wouldn't meet my eyes. Tuesday brought the police. 6 officers showed up at my door with a warrant, tearing through my house, confiscating my computers, my files, everything. Mrs. Henderson, next door, watched from her window as they led me out in handcuffs. "Dad, what's happening?" Bethany sobbed over the phone from her dorm. "It's a misunderstanding, sweetheart. Don't worry." But by Wednesday, it was clear this was no misunderstanding. Every major logistics company in the tri-state area had received an email from Harlow Industries about my integrity issues and ongoing investigation for corporate theft. My LinkedIn flooded with people distancing themselves. 23 years of relationships evaporated in 23 hours. The text from Felicia came Wednesday evening. "Enjoy being nobody, Ray. You always were too small for the life I wanted. Vinny sends his regards." I called Christopher. "I need a lawyer who isn't afraid of Vincent Harlow." "Dad, I'll represent you myself." "No, you just made partner?" "I won't let them destroy your career, too." The lawyer I hired cost $500 an hour. By week 3, my savings were hemorrhaging. By month 2, the house went into foreclosure. The legal bills had eaten everything, and we were no closer to proving my innocence. Vincent Harlow had an army of attorneys, and they buried us in paperwork. "Ray, I hate to say this, but they've done this before," my lawyer finally admitted. "Vincent Harlow has a pattern. 3 other executives who crossed him ended up with similar accusations. None of them could prove their innocence. So, I'm just supposed to give up? I'm saying you're David fighting Goliath, except Goliath owns all the stones." I sold everything. The house, the car, my father's watch. Christopher tried to give me money, but I refused. Bethany offered to leave school and work, but I'd rather die than let her sacrifice her future for Vincent's lies. Luigi's Pizza was the only place that didn't run a background check. The owner, Luigi Marcelli, was old school. You show up, you work hard, you get paid. I don't care what the papers say. Delivering pizzas at 50 was a special kind of humiliation. My first delivery was to someone from my old department. The second was to a neighbor. The third was to one of Felicia's friends, who laughed when she saw me and tipped me a condescending 20. Raymond Grant? Dennis caught me one night at a red light, pulling up beside my beat-up Civic with the Luigi's sign on top. Man, I heard what Harlow did to you. Everyone knows it's bull, but nobody will cross him. He owns half the city. 3 months into this new life, I'd stopped fighting. Pride was a luxury I couldn't afford. I delivered pizzas, lived in a studio apartment that smelled like mildew, and avoided places where I might see people from my old life. The man who'd run logistics for a billion-dollar company now worried about gas money. That December night, driving through the rain to Beacon Hill, I thought I'd accepted my fate. I was nobody, just like Felicia said. I had no idea that in 10 minutes, Walter Drummond would change everything. The order was for 1247 Beacon Hill Drive, a large pepperoni with extra cheese, total $23.50 including delivery. The December rain hammered my windshield as I pulled up to the massive colonial house. These Beacon Hill deliveries usually meant good tips, sometimes enough to cover my gas for the entire night. I grabbed the insulated bag and ran through the downpour, my Luigi's jacket useless against the cold rain. When Walter Drummond opened the door and fell to his knees, I thought he was having a heart attack. Then he spoke my father's name, and my world tilted off its axis. "Come in, please, you need to come inside," Walter said, pulling me through the doorway with surprising strength. "I've been searching for you for 30 years, Raymond." 30 years. His living room looked like a museum dedicated to the past. Black and white photographs covered every surface. Documents in frames lined the walls, and boxes of papers sat stacked in corners. The pizza bag dropped from my numb fingers as Walter grabbed a specific photograph from the mantel. "This is your father and me, 1982, the day we incorporated Drummond Grant Developments." The two young men in the photo stood in front of a massive tract of swampland, hard hats in hand, grinning like they'd won the lottery. My father looked exactly like me at 25, down to the slight scar above his left eyebrow. "Tommy and I met at a construction site in Jersey," Walter explained, his words tumbling out like a dam had burst. "We were both foremen, both dreamers. We'd spend our lunch breaks talking about making it big, about building something that mattered. Then the riverside land came up for auction, 60 acres of swamp that nobody wanted." Walter pulled out a yellow document, the incorporation papers for Drummond Grant Developments. "Your father scraped together $50,000, his entire life savings plus a loan against your parents' house. I matched it. We were equal partners, 50-50. Everyone laughed at us. Who builds on swampland 30 miles from the city?" "My mother never mentioned any of this," I said, my voice hoarse. "Because we failed, or thought we did. The city rejected our development permits 6 times. The environmental board said the land was protected wetlands. Your father was devastated. He'd risked everything, mortgaged your family's future on a dream. 2 months later, he died in that car accident on Route 76, thinking he'd ruined your mother's life and yours before you were even born." Walter's eyes filled with tears. "I went to the funeral. Your mother was 8 months pregnant, completely broken. When I tried to explain about the company, she screamed at me to get out, said she never wanted to hear about Tommy's failed dreams again. She moved away right after you were born. I hired private investigators, but Dorothy covered her tracks well." He walked to a filing cabinet and pulled out folder after folder. 6 months after Tommy died, everything changed. The state announced a new technology corridor initiative. Suddenly, our worthless swampland was prime real estate. The permits were approved overnight, but I couldn't find you or your mother to tell you. So, you developed it alone? I developed it for both of us. Every contract, every lease, every decision, I asked myself what Tommy would want. I put his 50% in a trust, collecting rent, accumulating interest, waiting for the day I could find his son. Walter showed me lease agreements, bank statements, 30 years of meticulous records. Google, Microsoft, 3 major hospitals, 47 office buildings, all paying rent to Drummond Grant Developments. The numbers were staggering. $823 million, Walter said. That's your father's share as of today, but Raymond, there's something more important than the money. He pulled out a specific lease agreement and my blood froze. Vincent Harlow's signature stared back at me. Harlow Industries has been our anchor tenant for 15 years. Lot 47, the crown jewel of the corridor. His entire operation runs from that building. The lease comes up for renewal next month. You're telling me Vincent Harlow rents from us? From you now. And there's a morality clause I insisted on in every lease. Any tenant convicted of fraud, theft, or unethical business practices can be evicted with 30 days' notice. Your father wanted honest businesses on our land. I thought about Felicia's text, about being nobody, about my daughter crying on the phone, about my son offering money he didn't have, about 3 months of delivering pizzas while Vincent Harlow sat in his office on my father's land, destroying lives for sport. Walter, I said, my voice steady for the first time in months. I need you to introduce me to your lawyers, the best ones you know. Already done. Patricia Norwood from Norwood, Kane and Associates. She's expecting your call. Raymond, your father would be so proud. You survived what would have broken most men. I haven't survived yet, I said. But Vincent Harlow is about to learn what it feels like when the ground shifts beneath your feet. The lawyers confirmed everything within a week. Patricia Norwood's team worked around the clock, verifying documents, establishing my inheritance, and most importantly, reviewing every single lease agreement on Drummond Grant property. The morality clause Walter had insisted on was ironclad, written in language that even Vincent Harlow's army of lawyers couldn't dispute. Mr. Grant, Patricia said, adjusting her glasses as we sat in her downtown office, you don't just own the land under Harlow Industries, you own the leverage to destroy him completely. His entire operation depends on that location. The specialized manufacturing equipment alone would cost $50 million to relocate. How soon can we move? We already have. I filed the paperwork establishing your ownership and sent formal notice that you'll be personally reviewing all lease renewals. Mr. Harlow's attorneys have been calling nonstop. My phone buzzed. Felicia, I let it ring. The following morning, I sat in my Honda Civic outside Harlow Industries, holding the folder that contained Vincent's future. The building towered. Above me, 40 stories of glass and steel, built on my father's dream. The security guard who used to wave me through now looked right through me, but that would change in about 30 minutes. My phone rang again. This time, I answered. Ray? Felicia's voice was tight with barely controlled panic. Vincent's freaking out about some lease issue. His lawyers are saying something about ownership changes. You wouldn't know anything about this, would you? Actually, I would, I said, watching Vincent's Bentley pull into his reserved spot. Tell Vincent his new landlord wants to discuss his recent business practices. The meeting is in 20 minutes. What are you talking about? Have you lost your mind? Oh, and Felicia? That boring man you left? He owns the ground your penthouse sits on. The one Vincent bought you last month, it's all built on Drummond Grant land. The silence was beautiful. Then came the shriek. That's impossible. You deliver pizzas. Not anymore. See you in the conference room. I walked through the lobby in my best suit, the one I'd saved from my old life. The receptionist looked confused until Patricia Norwood's team swept in behind me. 6 lawyers in perfect formation. We're here for the emergency meeting with Mr. Harlow, Patricia announced. Conference room A, I believe. The elevator ride to the 40th floor felt like ascending to justice. When we entered the conference room, Vincent was already there with his legal team. 12 lawyers arranged like a defensive wall. Felicia sat beside him, her face pale under the fluorescent lights. "Hello, Vincent," I said, taking the seat at the head of the table. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with your landlord." Vincent's face went from confused to furious to terrified in 3 seconds. This is some kind of joke. Patricia slid the ownership documents across the table. "No joke, Mr. Harlow. Mr. Grant inherited 50% of Drummond Grant Developments from his father. As of last week, he's assumed full control of lease negotiations for Lot 47. "You can't do this," Vincent snarled. "We have a lease." "Which expires in 30 days, I said calmly, "and contains a comprehensive morality clause. Patricia, would you share what our investigators found?" Patricia opened her laptop. 17 former employees have provided sworn affidavits about false accusations, planted evidence, and targeted harassment. We have 3 who were accused of theft using the exact same method used against Mr. Grant. Digital signatures, mysteriously malfunctioning cameras, the whole playbook. "You can't prove anything." "We don't have to," I said. "The morality clause doesn't require conviction, just credible evidence of unethical business practices. But here's my offer, Vincent. You have 2 choices." I stood, looking down at the man who'd destroyed my life for sport. Option 1. You vacate the premises in 30 days. Move your entire operation elsewhere. Good luck finding 40 floors of specialized space with your infrastructure needs. Or, his voice cracked. Option 2. You publicly clear my name, pay me $30 million in damages, and sign a lease at triple the current rate. Oh, and you divorce my ex-wife immediately. You can't force me to divorce her. Vincent slammed his fist on the table. "No, but I can make staying married to her very expensive. Every month you remain married, the rent doubles. Month 1, $6 million. Month 2, $12 million. Month 3, $24 million. How long before your board decides she's not worth it?" Felicia was standing now, her designer heels clicking as she backed toward the door. "Ray, baby, we can work this out. I never meant for things to go this far." "Save it," I said, not even looking at her. "Vincent, you have 24 hours to decide. After that, I start the eviction process and go public with everything." Vincent's lead attorney whispered urgently in his ear. The color drained from his face as he realized his empire stood on land I controlled. "This is extortion." "No," Patricia corrected. "This is contract law. The same law you used to destroy innocent people. Mr. Grant is being generous. He could evict you today based on what we've documented." I turned to leave, then stopped. "By the way, Vincent, that text Felicia sent about me being nobody? Thank her for me. It's been very motivating." Vincent chose to fight. He lost spectacularly. Within 48 hours of our meeting, his board of directors called an emergency session. Patricia Norwood had made sure they received copies of every sworn affidavit, every piece of evidence, every documented case of Vincent's destruction of innocent employees. The Philadelphia Inquirer got an anonymous tip about the story, and suddenly Vincent Harlow wasn't the brilliant CEO anymore. He was the billionaire who destroyed working families for sport. "Mr. Harlow has decided to pursue other opportunities," the corporate statement read. But everyone knew the truth. The board gave him 2 options: resign or be fired publicly. He chose to slink away with whatever dignity remained. The divorce papers were filed within a week. Turns out, when you marry someone for money and the money disappears, so does the marriage. Felicia sent dozens of texts, each more desperate than the last. "Ray, please, I made a mistake. We were married for 20 years. Doesn't that count for something? I'm going to be homeless. Is that what you want? Please answer me. I know you're reading these." She even showed up at Luigi's one night. I still delivered pizza on Fridays, not because I needed the money, but because Luigi had given me dignity when the rest of the world had written me off. That man deserved my loyalty more than any corporate title ever could. "Ray," Felicia said, standing in the rain outside the restaurant, looking nothing like the woman who'd destroyed me 6 months ago. "Please, just 5 minutes." "Your order will be ready in 15 minutes, ma'am," I said, walking past her to my car. "I'm sorry. Is that what you want to hear? I'm sorry for everything." I stopped and turned. "No, Felicia. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry the money's gone. You're sorry you backed the wrong horse. That'll be $23.50 for the pizza." She threw the money at me and left. It was the last time I saw her. The 17 former employees Vincent had destroyed each received $2 million from the settlement fund we established. Dennis, from accounting, who'd been forced out 3 years earlier on false charges, cried when he got the call. "Ray, you didn't just save yourself. You saved all of us." Walter Drummond became the grandfather I never had. We spent evenings going through my father's old papers, learning about the man I'd never known. Tommy Grant had been a dreamer, but more than that, he'd been a man who believed business should lift communities, not destroy them. "Your father always said something," Walter told me one evening as we watched the sunset over the Riverside Technology Corridor. He said wealth without purpose is just paper, but wealth with purpose can change the world. We converted half of the Riverside Corridor into affordable housing for displaced workers. The Thomas Grant Foundation launched with a $100 million endowment, specifically to help families affected by corporate retaliation and false accusations. In the first year alone, we helped 300 families get back on their feet. Bethany graduated debt-free and with honors. She now runs the medical clinic we built in North Philadelphia, providing free health care to families who can't afford insurance. "Dad," she said at the ribbon cutting, "you showed me that falling down doesn't define you. Getting up does." Christopher started his own law firm, specializing in defending employees against corporate harassment. His first case was pro bono, defending a janitor accused of theft by his employer. We won. The janitor's daughter sent me a hand-drawn thank you card that sits on my desk next to my father's picture. My granddaughter Dorothy, Christopher's newborn girl, will grow up in a world where her family name means something. Not because of money, but because when we got power, we used it to protect those who didn't have any. Standing in my father's old office, now mine, Walter placed his hand on my shoulder. "Tommy would be proud," he said. "You didn't just reclaim your wealth. You reclaimed your father's dream of using success to lift others." I looked at the photo of my father on the wall, that young man full of hope standing in front of worthless swampland. He'd died thinking he was a failure, never knowing he'd built an empire. But more importantly, he'd built it with integrity, with clauses that demanded ethical behavior, with a vision that business should serve communities, not destroy them. The best revenge wasn't the money or the power. It wasn't watching Vincent lose everything or Felicia's desperate texts. The best revenge was the text I sent Felicia on what would have been her first wedding anniversary with Vincent. It was a photo of me handing keys to a young single mother, another victim of corporate retaliation, as she moved into her new apartment in our affordable housing complex. The message read, "This is what being somebody looks like." She never responded, but Tommy Grant's son didn't need her to. I'd learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes being nobody is just the universe's way of preparing you to become somebody who matters. And sometimes the ground beneath your feet isn't pulling you down, it's getting ready to lift you up. My father left me more than money. He left me purpose, and that's worth more than $800 million could ever be. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to remember that justice still exists in this world. Comment below if you've ever faced injustice and came out stronger. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories of ordinary people overcoming extraordinary odds. Remember, sometimes the biggest victories come after the deepest defeats,